Aloha! Welcome to this week's video. So I'm actually really excited about this project. So this project is going to be a pahoa, or a shark tooth pahoa, which is a Hawaiian dagger, but I'm going to be making a sheath out of koa wood for it. So one of the questions I've gotten quite a few times is, how would you carry one of these around? Obviously, going into war, you might just hold it in your hand. But in today's age, how would you be able to carry one of these around? And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to make a piece that had a sheath. I thought about making a leather sheath, but one of the problems with a sheath, a regular sheath, is with a blade, you have for the most part, a straight edge all the way through. And so it doesn't really catch on anything or have the opportunity to catch on something. If this has shark teeth in it, the shark teeth will catch on everything. So I was kind of not sure of what type of sheath to make, and so I thought, okay, well, maybe I can make it out of wood. That way the shark teeth won't have the opportunity to bite into it as much, but they still can. So then as I was thinking about it, I came up with a decent design that I think will work. So the first step here is I'm just cutting out or shaping out the pahoa. The wood, all of the wood I'm using is Hawaiian koa wood. This is a dark koa, which is really beautiful. I was really excited for this piece. I rough cut it out on the bandsaw, and now I'm just going into shaping it. I'm not going to be finishing the pahoa. I'm going to get it mostly finished. I just want to get it to the point where I put the teeth in so that I can start making the inside of the sheath, the wooden sheath. Since it is going to be wood, I have to be careful so that it slides in and it's a good fit. Now that I've got it shaped down to a decent spot, I'm going to go ahead and cut in where the teeth will glue. I'm going to be using a little bit more glue this time than normal. Usually I don't put very much epoxy in. I wasn't sure at this point in time if when I lashed it, if the lashing would get in the way of the sheath. And so I wasn't quite sure. So I went ahead and just cut the groove fairly deep, and now I'm going to go back and start shaping some more. And then when I get to gluing in the teeth, and then I'll kind of have a better idea then as to whether or not I'll be able to lash it. I'm going to be sanding this down to 320. I'm using the remainder of these black pads that I had. I really don't like them. But I spent money on them, so I might as well use them. I pretty much just burned through them all on this small piece, which is kind of ridiculous. It was something like 10 pads or something, and I went right through them. They just don't hold their grip very well, so I just wasn't impressed. But I have this sanded down. I'm gonna sand it down to 320, but probably not until I get some of the other components in. So what I decided to do on this piece is I have some hollow copper pipe. That was for a project I did a long time ago. I usually put in a hole in the handle here on a pahoa because that's for your lanyard or for a wrist strap. The reason why I'm putting in the copper tubing on here is because, one, I think it'll look a little bit nicer with the sheath that I'm going to be making, and two, the lanyard that's going to be in there might get yanked on quite a bit more. And so knowing that it might get pulled on a lot more and have a lot more stress, I wanted something a little bit stronger. Another concern I had is the back section where that lanyard hole is. The koa is a little bit softer, and so I was worried that it would just start to wear through with the lanyard once it got to that point. But that worked out well. I glued that. I used some epoxy to glue that in and then sanded it smooth. And then I actually peened it just a little bit. I widened the outer edges of that piping so that it would really just lock into place. So now I'm sanding it down. It's a small pahoa, and I've made quite a few of these, and so it didn't take too much time to get the pahoa about 80%, pretty much to the point where I'm going to put in the teeth. Again, I'm using quite a bit more epoxy than I normally do, and that's because I don't know if I'm going to be able to lash it or not. And so if I don't lash it, I wanted to make sure there was enough epoxy that it would be solid. And it's a little bit more of a challenge to get that epoxy in after the fact. So now that I have the teeth in place, I can go ahead and start working on cutting out the inside of the sheath. I'm using these two pieces of koa here. One of them is a two-tone koa, so it's got two really contrasting colors. That's a result of edge wood, or wood closer to the edge of the tree, closer to the bark, and then the inner wood. And then this other piece here is just straight inner wood, but it's a little bit darker. It's not as dark as the knife itself. I purposefully picked lighter pieces of koa for the sheath, and I did that so there'd be a good contrast between the knife and the sheath. So to hollow out the section in here, I used a mixture between my chisels and the angle grinder. It took quite a bit of time, so it's kind of hard to see from the video here, but I have an angle on the inside of the sheath, and you'll see a little bit more of it once I put it together. So my plan is that the knife will sit into place, and then it'll angle in up to the teeth, and then it'll have a slot so that the teeth never have the opportunity to catch on the wood. So this way the teeth will be free floating inside of the sheath, and only the wood will ever come in contact. It took quite a while to work this down. I just wanted to make sure that it had a good close fit and that it was tight. So one thing that I noticed in other custom sheaths that I've seen, as well as like katana, is that last section when you slide it in is tight, and it like locks it into place. And so that's kind of the goal that I had here. I might still put a strap, so that way if someone does actually carry this around, that strap is just another confident securing on the knife, so you know it's not going to slide out, which is actually the reason why I made that finger loop so deep, is with the idea that I might put a strap into place. This section here took forever. It took me a good few days to actually get both of these perfectly set. Normally it wouldn't take that long just to hollow out an inside. So if I just wanted to hollow it out so it was perfectly flat all the way down, that would have been quite a bit faster. But since I'm trying to hollow it out in a very specific pattern so that the blade never touches the edge, I just have to do it a little bit at a time, and just work it back and forth until it eventually has a nice snug fit. And so that's what you're seeing me do there, is I'm just constantly going back and forth, and I'm almost done at this point. There's about one tooth left, so it's kind of still grabbing onto some of the edges that I just need to clean off and make sure they're good. I will sand the inside and oil the inside just so that it's nice, and it's not going to be watertight, but it'll have a little bit more protection, and I think it'll work a little bit better so that the wood doesn't wear off on each other. So you can see here I've got that pretty much set. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a couple last finishing touches and then glue the two pieces together. So you can see there the all teeth are able to fit inside of the sheath now. So I'm going to go ahead and just get some wood glue and glue this together and compress it. I want to be extremely careful that I line these up. These two pieces aren't exactly the same dimension. They're pretty close, but not exact. And so I just wanted to make sure that the internals are lined up exactly correct. And so I went ahead and got all of my clamps and just made sure everything was tight, fit good. I did test putting the knife into the sheath just to make sure I didn't screw something up. Now that I have that drying, I'm going to go and work on the teeth. So I decided, I did test it. I did a small test with some small lashing, and it looked like it's going to work. So I went ahead and drilled it, and hopefully after I lash it, I won't have to, break open the sheath and try to dig it out some more. That'd be horrible. I'd probably try a different path if I was going to do that. So I drilled out the teeth using my Dremel, and then drilled out the holes along there with just a regular bit. And now that I have that all complete, I'm going to go ahead and oil this piece. I am going to oil this piece, I think, either 2 or 3 times. I just want to make sure it has a really strong protective layer so that as it slides back and forth between, going in and out of the sheath, it protects the wood a little bit more. It doesn't scratch it, have the opportunity to scratch. I don't think it will, because this darker koa that I have here, at least the section that's by the teeth, is pretty hard. It's a very hard, denser koa, and those the lighter wood that I have there is a little bit softer, and so I don't think it's going to scratch it at all. I think it's going to work out just perfect. But I was really excited to oil this piece. It's absolutely beautiful. The wood on this pohoa is just amazing, and you can really see the lines, the 3D effect from the curl and that dark koa. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. I'm in love with this piece. It's just a small little knife, but man, is it beautiful. Well, that's all I have for this week. I'm letting the sheath set, and I'm going to be shaping that and then finishing up the pohoa, and then hopefully get the whole piece done by my next video. Mahalo for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.